Welcome to Bandit's Keep Actual Play. I'm Daniel. Today we are continuing my original Dungeons & Dragons solo campaign using Chainmail as the combat system. We're picking back up with the Rangers who had set up an encampment out in the wilderness. They're kind of planning to make a raid on an orc's lair. Let's see what happens. Okay, it is August the 3rd, and the Rangers have set up an encampment. Now, when we last left them, kind of misspoke a little bit. Number one, I said that I could play again on August the 2nd, but actually that day that we ended was August the 2nd, so I suppose I could have played that night, but the 3rd is the better day to start, so we don't have to roll any extra encounters, except for the fact that today's August the 3rd, and we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to actually split the group a little bit. If you haven't been following this, I'm going to kind of give you a little background here. The party, the Rangers, they're heading to this location here, which is just a couple hexes away. This is a orc lair that is also guarded by a Balrog, which it could be very dangerous for us because a Balrog is way out of our league, but the orcs are not. So we're hoping to go in there, get some treasure, get out. Then we're going to come out and set up and go over here. Now, we have actually already started to clear this dungeon a long time ago. It's one of the first dungeons they worked on, and there's just a lower level, a 3rd level. Last time we played, in that session, anyways, I'm not sure which video it was, they encountered a patriarch who gave them some information about it, that the monsters on the lower level are basilisks. So that's something that we might need to deal with, because we're going to need to do a little research, or I'm going to do some rolls to see a few things before we get started. So let's get that out of the way. We've got in our group a 3rd level cleric, a 4th level elf magic user, a 5th level human magic user, a 4th level elf magic user, so 2 of those, a 3rd level elf magic user, and a 4th level halfling hero. So, halfling fighter. So basically, we've got several magic users, and I think that a magic user is pretty likely to know the secrets of the basilisk. That is, that they turn things to stone by looking at them. And what we're going to do, because there's so many of them, is just to keep life simple, I'm just going to roll the bones. So this is a simple yes-no oracle with a little twist. It's from Tales of Argosa. Basically, you've got these 2 dice are your primary yes-no dice. This is a tiebreaker die. And then this one can add a little flavor with the skull or a sun. So let's roll and say, does anybody in the party know the secrets of the basilisk, like how they'll destroy them? Now, I did actually say the priest would tell us that, but, enough to know, again, that maybe we should get mirrors. I'm going to actually give advantage to this roll, and if we need it, I'll show you how that's done. I don't count anything outside the box, so. Okay. Yes, no, no, and that's a tiebreaker die. But again, I'm giving myself advantage. When you have advantage when you're rolling the bones, you can re-roll one of the dice that doesn't correspond to what you want, so I'm going to roll this one. No. Okay, so we don't know about the mirror thing, but there's something positive here. So I think that we don't know that the basilisks can they themselves be turned to stone by the mirror, but we do know that we need to avoid their gaze because otherwise we'll be turned to stone. So I think that's fair, a bit of information that we have. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because if we wanted to get mirrors, I might have sent a group back to get some back to town. But since we don't know that, we're not going to worry about that. Step 2, I've got 30. Is it 30? I probably should have looked at my notes before I did this. I've got 30, I believe it's 30 heavy foot that are with us today. Yeah, 30 heavy foot. We've got wagons and supplies and stuff. They're going to set up camp here. While they're setting up camp, and I'll leave a single character with them. Actually, if I'm smart, and I like to be smart, I'm going to send 3 characters. We'll say the elf, this elf, who's one of the leaders of the group. These 2 are kind of the leaders. And this halfling, because it's always good to have a halfling. And I think that's it. I'm going to send those 2 to the orc encampment to see what's there. Because orcs could be in a village, they could be in a cave, there's lots of things. We don't know much. So I'm going to have them ride there and back today. They're on horses, they can easily do that. The rest of the group, including the 30 heavy foot, are going to set up an encampment here. So we're going to do this in 2 phases. Phase 1 is I'm going to move the 2 characters on horses to the orc encampment. Now, because we are on a path, there is only a 1 in 6 chance of us getting lost and thrown off course. So I'm going to roll a d6. If it comes up a 1, then we'll deal with that. I do not, so we can actually move. Now we have 10 movement points. The woods take 2, so 1, 2, 3, and we're there. So we actually have plenty of movement to get back. There. We'll deal with that in a second, because back at camp, I want to do something else. We need to roll. Whenever you're resting, which effectively we are here, you roll twice for wandering monsters that day. Once in the morning and once in the evening. So I'm going to roll 2 dice. Once in the morning, once in the evening, and we're going to see if there's any encounters while the encampment is being set up. Okay, we got a 2 and a 4. If we look at River, an encounter is on a 5 or a 6. So this first day, August the 3rd, which I'll make a note of, there is no encounter, and a day goes by. I'm just going to do that to track the... Actually, I'll do it on here. I'm going to track the days like this, because I don't need to worry about food right now, because we are in a hunting ground, so we're going to assume that we can get enough food, because we have our encampment here. So now let's cut back to the group that's with the orcs. Orcs, as I said, and I will read from original Dungeons & Dragons. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain. Let's see. They talk about them being different tribes. I'm not really worrying about that so much in this campaign, but maybe I will later. But let's see. When found in their lair, it will either be a cave complex or a village. So we're going to roll a d6. 1 through 4, cave complex. 5 or 6, a village. 3. Okay, so it's a cave complex. Okay, the cave complex will be guarded by sentries. A village will be protected by a ditch. And then it goes into other things. They're protectors. We already know there's a Balrog here. So there's also something here about basically if they're in the wild. Now, not in OD&D, but in Dave Arneson's first fantasy campaign, the way he handles lairs is as follows. When you encounter a lair, from 40 to 90% of the group will be there. So that's a d6 plus 3 times 10, right? So that's 70% are going to be in the lair. The other 30% will be off in the wilderness. Now that's currently today. We may not attack the camp today. So that's what's there today. Now, of course, we don't really know that right now because they're obviously primarily in caves. So what is this cave complex like? Let's use an oracle to give us a little flavor for this. I'm going to reshuffle these because we used them last time. And we're going to get some flavor on the orcs' cave and figure out maybe what kind of sentries they might have here and all that goodness. Because remember, what we want to do is raid this place, take some of the treasure, and get out before the Balrog is disturbed. Which we'll assume will be fairly deep in the lair. You know, kind of like in a book that we might have all read. Oh, what's that? Oh, Crossroads. Crossroads, fork, change, deciding. Temple offering faithful refuge. Ooh. Well, that's interesting. Okay. So this, again, my first thought is temple is something positive or law, but since there's a Balrog here, perhaps they have either, which probably makes sense, they've probably turned a lawful temple to chaos, and now the orcs are being drawn to it. This is a crossroads that all the orcs that are traveling this area are drawn to, and they meet the Balrog here for whatever reason. Maybe they bring treasure to it. Maybe they seek refuge. Maybe they bring offerings. Okay? So this cave complex is somehow trafficked by lots and lots of different orcs, and there will likely be somewhere here where there's a sacrifice or offering room and the like. So that's kind of cool. We can kind of play that up flavor-wise as we go through the dungeon. Since it's a cave complex, I'm going to use geomorphs because I have geomorph cave complexes, and that will be nice and fun just to kind of run through. But since we got here and we're good to go, we kind of spy it. We see that there's a cave complex here. We see some sentries out front. We see the approach. So let's do a couple of things here. Since it's a cave complex and it's right near, right, it's here, so it's near a mountain range. We're assuming it's in some kind of hills and stuff. Is this one of those places where the there's only like one entrance that it goes into the mountains. In other words, is this cave complex that the orcs are in kind of the beginning of what might be a bigger dungeon that goes into the mountains? Which again would kind of make sense with the Balrog. For that, let's roll this. Rolling the bones. No. Okay, so it's not that. So I'm going to say then we're going to go more Caves of Chaos style. Instead of this entrance into this large complex, we're going to say there are several caves that the orcs occupy. Some of them are connected, some are not, but they're going to be kind of set up in kind of a pattern in like a little bit of a valley. So let's decide how many caves there are. Let's say, I mean, we have a total of, the orcs can only defend so many, right? I mean, they're not foolish. They're not going to spread themselves too thin. I think there are 90 orcs here. So let's say there's no fewer than 30 orcs per cave. So let's say there's 1 to 3 caves. There's 3. All right, so there's 3 separate caves, each occupied by about 30% of the group. So you know what that means. We're going to say there's 4 caves, and 1 is the cave of the Balrog. Okay. All of the caves will be guarded by orc guards. So they all look the same to the party at this moment. We're going to find out by the first random encounter in a cave if it's the Balrog's cave or not. So that's how we're going to handle this. So we spend about half the day there. We drive back. Again, we have plenty of movement. You can do that, Thunder. And we go back. We've used 3 of our movement points out of 10. I'll say we lose 2 for hanging out for a couple hours, and which leaves us with, actually we'll lose 1 to 6 hanging out. Oh, all right. It took us a while to figure that out. So we actually don't have enough movement points to get home today. But because we don't want to hang out in that same hex, we're just going to move 1 hex over. I'm not going to roll to get lost again because, well, they're going in a different direction. So you know what? I will roll to get lost again. They're in the clear. They're only lost on the roll of a 6, which they are not. Okay. So actually, I technically have them in the, this is where the lair is. I put them next to them anyway. So that's where they are. They're in the next 5-mile hex, but that's going to end that day. So now that's which I already checked off. So that's the 3rd. Obviously, they would have brought some food and stuff with them. They set up a camp. Now I'm going to have to roll that night to see if they encounter anything. Did I say they were lost on a... I don't know what I rolled, but whatever it was, I'm going to say it was right. On the roll of a 6, they have an encounter. They do not. Okay. Next day, they're going to ride back to camp. Before they get there, there's a chance of an encounter at our camp. Is there an encounter there on a 5 or a 6? No. Does the party get lost? They get lost on the roll of a 6. They do. Okay, so they have to roll 1 hex in the random direction. So I'm going to say lost, meaning they probably have to avoid some orc patrols. Oh boy. All right. So they got to go diagonally this way because I rolled a 3. So that takes 3 movement points. 1, 2, 3. But then they can recover. They can't go directly back the same way, but they can come this way. 4. Just to be safe, they're going to go like this. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I'm going to say because they're taking the long way around, we're going to roll the encounter and at the location first. And they will come up upon it if there's a combat. So is there an encounter back at the location? There's an encounter on a 5 or a 6. 5. Oh boy. Okay. So these 2 will at some point show up in the middle of this encounter, but they're not going to be there at the beginning. Something comes upon the group when they're on this trail here. So again, this is, I'm going to check the day off. We are in the woods. I'm going to roll a d8. 6. Men. Oh boy. Okay, so we have our encampment set up and men show up. Men being humans. We're going to roll in the typical men charts because there's no, like if you were in the water, you'd roll on waterborne or something. 7, so he's a typical men. Oh, it's a lord. Oh boy, okay. Remember we ran into that lord that was moving dragon treasure around. So here's a good question. Is this the same guy? Yes, but then the tiebreaker is no, and then there's a skull. Oh boy. All right, so I'm going to say this guy's going to be chaotic. There's a chaotic lord, and they've come upon us. Now, in the wild, they're going to have, I think it's 2 to 12 warriors with them. 2 to 12 men. They'll be from 1st to 4th level. Okay, so we're going to figure all that out if we get into a combat. So they're going to have 2 to 12. Okay, so they've got 7. All right. So let's see how this plays out. We know they're chaotic. They're coming up upon our camp. We've had 2 days to set up. So we've probably got like sentries up, and we've got all this other stuff. They come riding up. I mean, they might be trying to be stealthy. I think even if they're not stealthy, surprise really just dictates they get closer to us. So let's make an initial roll. White is us, black is them. Is anybody surprised? We are surprised. Okay. So they can actually make a move. They see us, obviously, with our big encampment before we see them. They're a small group. I'm going to roll a reaction roll. 7. Okay. 7 is an uncertain reaction, pretty much dead center in the middle. So I think they don't know what to make of us. This is a well-known watering hole / hunting ground, so they might be just moving through and really are wondering what the heck's going on here. So the question is whether or not they want to even engage with us. So let's find out a little bit something about them first. Let's draw a couple of cards. Seer watching, prophecy strange. Ooh. Alien dreaming, ineffable discordant. Oh boy, okay, that's your Lovecraftian stuff here. Okay, so they've seen, and again, because we already determined they're chaotic, they are a visionary of the elder ones. So they're following a prophecy. So I guess the simplest thing to do, just to make this as basic as possible, does this prophecy have anything to do with the player characters, the Balrog, or even to the extent of let me rephrase that. Does the Chaos Lord believe that the prophecy might have something to do with this group? Oh, yes, they do. And negative. Okay. I think with all that being said, they're going to actually charge our group. They're going to make an attack. And they have surprise. There's not a lot of them, but let's see what levels they are. They're from 1 to 4th level. Each. 2, 1, 4. 4, 3, 4, 3. Okay. And he's a lord, which means I think he's 9th or 10th level. Lord starts at 9th level. So we'll say there's Lord and then there's Lord 10th level. So I'm just going to say he's either 9th or 10th level. So we'll just roll here. He's 9th level. All right. Now we're going to see if they've got anything with them. All right, these are other magic items they might have. All right, so there's a 50% chance they have a magic sword. So I'll just small roll percentile. Red's first. 83, so no. 25% chance they have a magic shield. 81, no. And a 25% chance they have magic armor. Okay, 17, they do have magic armor. Okay, so I don't do leather armor really for magic, so I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3 chain, 4, 5, 6 plate. All right, they have magical plate mail. So when we roll these kind of characters like in a bandit's lair, they always assume that the powerful character will be heavy horse. So basically they're on a horse, and we're traveling. So I assume these guys are on horses, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all decked out in plate mail. So let's take a look at Monsters and Treasure. And of course, you could spend all day figuring out exactly how everybody's dressed, but I think for the most part, I'll just make just looking for something that's comparable. So there's not really anything that would necessarily compare up to like knights, But again, these guys aren't necessarily knights. He's a lord. He could be a bandit lord. So let's use the dervish. So dervishes are basically like berserkers, except from the desert, and we'll say that's where they're going. Or maybe that's where they came from. They never check morale, +1 on hit dice. They're basically as nomads, except they'll be led by a cleric. Okay, so that's the only problem. They're led by a cleric, not a fighter. I could switch this lord to a cleric, but I think we rolled lord, so we're going for lord. So they can't be dervishes. We're going to say they're another version of dervishes that are led by... So they're basically berserkers. Let's see. So nomads of the steppes is what we'll call them. Okay, so we're going to say... All right, so none of them would be heavy horse then. We've got 50% of them. So 20% are... Okay, so here's the issue. When you do such small numbers, it's hard to really figure this out. But it says 30% of them, or 20% of them rather, are light horse lances. The 50% are light horse bowmen. And then we've got 10% medium horse and then 20% medium horse. I think it's likely that the leader is going to be... So what we're going to do is let's make a decision. So I'm going to roll back on the armor for this guy for a second, because let's do this. 1 through 4, they're medium. 5 through 6, they're light. Okay, so they're actually light. And then they're more likely to be bowmen than lancers. So again, 1 to 4 lancers, 5 through 6... 1 through 4 bowmen, 5 through 6 are going to be lancers. Okay, so they're bowmen. So these guys are all bowmen, and they're light bowmen, which actually means that while he does have... So I'll give him magic chain. That makes more sense. Okay, this is kind of interesting because we're a heavy foot. These guys are on horses and they're bowmen. So they're actually, and since they have a surprise round, they're going to attack us. They're actually just going to shoot some arrows into our group. All right, well, let's do this. There's not really much we can do about it for this first round, so let's just see what happens. I'm using Unchained, which of course is my own system based on original Dungeons & Dragons and Chainmail. Okay, here are the combat charts. So they're on horses, so they're using horse bows. So horse bows are basically traded in my game like light crossbows as far as stats-wise. Let's get a distance on these guys. They're probably in short range because they surprised us, but let's just make sure. 3, 4. So they're 4 inches away. So when I do a combat like this, I generally start with how far away everybody is, and then we can go from there. They're 4 inches away from like the one side of the encampment that they came up on. These encounters generally happen at night. In fact, that's when I rolled it. So we're going to say that, but at any one time, we've got about half of our guys on patrol. So we've got 15 heavy foot that are ready to go, plus the PCs are awake because it's not the middle of the night. So we've got 15 heavy foot that they can shoot at. They are shooting at heavy foot, 1 die per figure, 6 hits. Now remember, per figure, so we have to look at their levels because basically they are fighters, which means that they get 1 figure, if you will, per level. So I'm just going to do an add up here. So we said the Lord was 9th level, 10, 11, 12, 16, 23, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so we're rolling 30d6 into this group. Oh my God. This is very bad. We're about to get slammed. So I'm going to do groups of 5. Any 6s are kills. And remember, we only have 15 guys that are up. So if they go past 15 kills, then we'll start worrying about the PCs because Bandit can always die first. Okay. That's 2. Three. 4. 4. Okay. 4 of our heavy foot go down in this first volley. Now, when you are surprised, Now, of course, I'm going to say because they had to move up on us. Well, you know, let's leave it to luck. Normally, if you surprise something, you can actually, you get 2 shots with a bow. But because of the fact that they had, no, you know, I think they should just get it. Chaos ensues. Chaos. Here we go. They shoot again. Okay, that's 1 more dead. 2 more dead. 3 more dead. So if you wonder what I was doing there's 5 dice here. 5 times 6 is 30. So that's... Okay, that is actually about half their number. That means that the original heavy foot that are standing there are going to have to make a morale check. Now, I know there's more of them. It's not really that, but since these are the only ones that are fighting right now, they may back off until the others come up. Now, they are heavy foot, so I'm rolling a d6, 2d6 rather, and I've got to get... Take a look at Chainmail. Heavy foot. At 1/3 of their losses, they should check morale. At 66%, which is not quite there yet, they would actually fail. So I got to roll 2d6, 6 or better, they stay to fight. Yep, they're not running. They're actually kind of mad that just happened. All right, let's do this. So now, these guys are only 4 inches away. And because they chose to shoot twice, that's what I could have done, was have them retreat. But because I had them shoot twice, they got that advantage. Now, initiative becomes kind of important. Because if the player characters can move up on them, they're not going to be able to shoot their bows because the player characters aren't going to have to move half their distance. So we're going to roll initiative. If they win, they're going to actually retreat. Okay, player characters win. So the heavy foot and stuff charge up on these horses too quickly. But as they're moving up there, the magic users are going to use their spells. So this is why I'm glad I left her back. She has a staff of command. All right, she's going to use her staff of command, and she's going to command the troops of the Lord to stand down. This guy, we're going to fight fire with fire as far as the PCs are concerned, because these elves don't want to charge into combat. They're going to shoot their bows. The cleric is going to stand back with spell ready just in case. And so basically this cleric is going to stand... Cleric is going to stand and guard her. These two are going to let loose with their bows. And the magic user is going to use their staff of command. And then as that's happening, the soldiers will run up and try to engage with, again, not the ones... They're going to try to engage with the... I guess they're going to engage with the leader. That makes the most sense. It seems silly to do that because they actually can't take them. But of course, that's meta, right? They don't know that they're a lord. They're going to try to take that guy out. All right, so we want initiative. So let's take a look at Staff of Command. I believe they get a saving throw. Number 1, and there's also only a certain number of people they can control. I know that the Lord is probably out of the reach of it. That's why I said the men. If it's possible to control the Lord, then I will try. Oh, yeah, no, actually. So she's going to try all of them. She's going to tell them to stand down. So we can control from 2 to 12 with 3 or fewer hit dice. 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're good. There's 3 that are 4th level. 2 to 8 with 4 to 6. This is 3, so hopefully I don't get 2. Yep, 3. Okay, so that's all the men. And then actually it says 1 to 4 with 79 hit dice. Okay, so perfect. Saving throws are applicable though. So all of them are going to possibly be under the sway of the Staff of Command. Now we just have to roll saving throws. Well, that's fantastic. This could be real quick. All right, so taking a quick look at this. So the way saving throws work in this, I've kind of changed some of the naming conventions, so because we're kind of in the middle of this, so we'll go back and forth about that, and I'll kind of explain it to you as we go. Let me just get to the spells. Okay, so the way this works is that the saving throw is built into the spell. So saving throws, 10, 8, 6. So 10 is for normal types. So there are, anybody first or second level is normal type. So the first person is second level. So they've got to get a 10 or better, which they do. So they're actually not charmed. Second person needs a 10 or better. They do not get it, so they are charmed. Okay. The next, let's see. All the others are what I call blessed, so they need 8 or better. So next character, 8 or better, fails. Next character, 8 or better, passes. Next character, 8 or better, fails. Next character, 8 or better, fails. Next character, 8 or better, passes. Okay, so there is a second level, fourth level, and third level henchman still up. And then here is the most important. Does the Lord themselves get charmed? Because if they do, that will pretty quickly bring an end to this. So they need a 6 or better. 6 or better. Let's hope for a 5 or less. 4! All right. The Lord fails their save and is charmed. If you've been enjoying these actual plays, please do take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all that good YouTube stuff. Also, check the description. You're going to find links to most of the stuff I use here. If you see something I'm using and there's not a link, please do ask and I will try to provide it. In any case, I'll talk to you soon.